Emotive work that social workers do. They face some really difficult decisions, such as which children need to be removed from their parents. So how do you go about making such tough decisions? Well, Julie Ranger joined some trainees in Cambridge.
Imagine you're a social worker. In your caseload, you know that 8 children are at risk, but you can only intervene in just one case. How do you decide which one to help?
It's an impossible decision, really. You'd really want to help so many, and only having to do one, it's quite crushing, really.
We think it's serious neglect, chronic neglect, but can we afford to let these children suffer for another night?
Every day, social workers are faced with urgent cases. They haven't got time to see all of them and must prioritise and choose which one to act on. It could be a matter of life or death. We're going to show how social workers make these difficult choices. This exercise for student social workers is designed to mimic real-life decisions. The students are given 5 cases and must decide which one is at most risk. They're working in 2 groups. Will they agree which case to prioritise?
The scenario I want you to imagine is that you're in a team where there's some serious staff shortages, and it's only possible to follow up on one of these cases on the day in question. So your task is to choose, if you could only pick one, which one would you pick? And you're simply looking at the risk factors in each situation. You're trying to weigh up which is the one that is most important to follow up now.
Most of these students are completing a 2-year MA in social work. In a year's time, they could be making these decisions for real.
These are all indicators of possible abuse. We don't know.
You might think, well, on a course like this, we should be telling them, this is how you do it, this is the right one to pick. We can't do that. We can't do that for them. Because you can only know for certain which is the right one to pick if you could roll forward time and see what actually happened in each case, which you can't do.
So what are you going to achieve by prioritising the family?
We're dealing with clues and hints and bits of information from here, bits of information from there. And we're trying to piece together a picture from that, and we're trying to make intelligent judgments about the risks that are present in that situation. And that is the best we can do, and that's what we're training to do as best we can.
To help identify each case being discussed, we're using actors to illustrate each scenario. In case A, there are 3 children, aged 6, 4 and 2. Their mother, Anita, is 22 years old. She's come to the social services office for help with money and accommodation. The children appear wild and unwashed. Anita is fleeing a violent partner in Leeds, where there have been allegations of her working as a prostitute in the same room as the children. In case B, Josie is 25 and she has 2 children, aged 3 and 4. A neighbour called to say that every night for 3 weeks there have been rowdy parties, with shouting, music and fights at their home. There have been other complaints about broken windows and bonfires at the house and a constant stream of visitors. The children look dirty and tired. Josie suffered sexual and physical abuse as a child and was in care for most of her childhood. Here in case C, we have a 6-month-old baby with a 19-year-old father. The mother has gone back to Poland. Last night, neighbours heard the baby crying and called the police. They broke in and found the baby alone in a cot in front of an electric fire. Baby clothes were draped in front of the fire and starting to singe. Case D. Hazel is 13 and she was admitted to hospital after an overdose of paracetamol. She has a history of unexplained illness and absence from school. Her mother doesn't want her back home because of her behaviour, and Hazel doesn't want to go to her father. E is the last case. Rosie is 4 and her aunt called social services because she's worried Rosie is being abused. The aunt says that Rosie is displaying behaviour that is overtly sexual, including getting dolls to act inappropriately. Rosie's father was very angry when he heard that the aunt had been in touch.
So you're most worried about case A. Does everybody else agree?
No, I don't agree, I have to say, because in case A the children are 6, 4 and 2 and they have some form of mobility to escape if possible, whereas child C is only 6 months old and is totally dependent. So I don't...
From what, sorry?
From any form of danger. So in case A with a party...
Violent adult? 6-year-old can escape from a violent adult?
Can anyone escape from a violent adult, Joel? But we're having to balance priorities here. A child here is mobile and faced in a situation of risk has a greater chance of escape than a 6-month-old.
The 6-month-old isn't facing a risk from violent adults.
It's facing a risk of fire.
But I had huge reservations about case D as well. That if the gang girl does go home, then she might also fall through the net.
But in case A, if we lose touch of this lady and the children, we don't know what is going to happen with her and the children and the strangers and wherever they are going to.
The two groups seem to be narrowing it down to 3 cases. A, the family fleeing a violent partner. B, the house of wild parties. And C, the abandoned baby.
For me, it's clearly between A and C.
Right, I think I'm in agreement with you there.
I think C
And B's in there as well for me.
Yeah, for me it's personally B. Case B is my choice. Because it's a reoccurring thing and the mom's vulnerable, moreover the children are vulnerable, I think B.
My question with B is what's different? Because this has been happening every night for 3 weeks, so what has made the risk greater today than it was yesterday? Whereas in the case of C, there's clearly something that's happened that's made the risk greater.
I think that A has got all of the same issues as C, maybe there is maybe a more vulnerable mother in B, but I think for A, we might lose them.
She is willing, she's got that. While as B, it seems completely vulnerable, has no savvy as to what services it's just going on a destructive route.
In terms of outstanding immediate risk, our intervention there should be priority.
Yes,
and to help support that young father who's got good bonds and attachment with the son to be in what could potentially, he has put him in potentially a life and death situation, and there is no other life and death immediate situation that we're sure of.
Ideally, we would, each one of us would, we would go out and we'd say we're going to take all these 5 cases on today because they all have really big, large risks. Yeah. Even though they're both up there, I think we'd probably come down with C.
Yeah, we agreed then, C?
Yeah.
But the other group doesn't agree.
You're going to go for A?
Yes,
Why
we've made
A?
that decision.
Why A?
With A, the significance of the ages of the 3 children, the fact that Anita's known to services, there is a huge risk of her fleeing and actually falling through anybody's safety net.
We did disagree a lot actually through the process of discussing, and but in the end we had to make a decision, and our decision is A, I think.
You know, it's interesting they came up with 2 different ones, and it would be nice if I could say the right one was this or the right one was that. I can't do that, and I don't think anybody else could either. You know, I don't think there's anyone in the world could say for certain which is the right one.
And because it's so difficult, Chris believes that social workers are unfairly criticised.
Yes, I mean, straight away it's interesting. We don't regard the police service as a failure because we still have crime in this country. We accept the police can't catch all the criminals, and we certainly accept they can't predict and prevent every aspect of crime. No one's even seriously suggesting that. And yet it's strange that we expect the child protection system to somehow predict in advance every time a child is going to be harmed and prevent it before it happens. But incidentally, we don't forgive the child protection system when it does step in and prevent things because, of course, if you step in and let's say, for example, you remove a child from a family because you believe it's at risk, you can't tell for certain whether the child would have been harmed. So it always looks like overzealous intervention when you do it. So I think the child protection system in this country is set up to fail because we have an impossible expectation of what it could do. Which is not to say that it shouldn't be criticised, it's not to say that mistakes aren't made, but I think people have got a fundamental misunderstanding about what is possible and what is not possible.
And if you'd like to look at the scenarios and try deciding which one you would put first, there's details on our website, bbc.co.uk/insideout. Well, that's it from Brightlingsea. Certainly lived up to its name. Very bright today. I'll see you next week for some more surprising stories.